Hey guys, so today we're going to do something a little different on this channel. Something I've never done before. We're going to go out a little bit outside of my wheelhouse, a little outside of my comfort zone. We're going to talk about something that I deem pretty serious. The world and the car community, it all comes full circle back at the end of the video, I promise. But we're going to talk a little bit about the death, I should say, or the demise or the downfall of car culture and really just modern society in general. This is not typically what we do on this channel. Usually we're doing videos on this POS here, or if you've been a long time sub, I know there's not many of you, but if you've been subscribed to the channel for a while, we started this channel 5, 6, 7+ years ago as a car review channel, and we had since stopped doing that years ago for multitudes of reasons, but I will explain how some of them relate to what I'm going to talk about, why we stopped doing car reviews in general. I think it's appropriate to start off and talk a little bit about myself, what my background is, what I do besides YouTube, because I don't really do YouTube. This is like the first video I've posted probably in, I don't know, 3-4 months plus. So I am a car enthusiast. I have been since I was an early teenager, since even younger. So I've been around cars almost my whole life in some kind of capacity, whether it was going to car shows or learning how to do stuff from friends, family, whatever it may be. I've always loved cars. I'm in the car industry currently. I'm in the most cutthroat, scummy part, for lack of a better word, of the car industry, though I do sleep well at night because I'm one of the most honest people in that portion of the industry. It's the warranty industry, and I only sell plans that I would have myself. I have a plan for my mom's car, I have a plan for my wife's car, I have a plan for one of my other cars that I don't modify. So I sell good stuff, but that's what I do. I am in the industry, and I am going to talk a lot about the industry as a whole in this video, and it's relevant. But a little bit about me. I'm in my early 30s. I am one of the few rare people in my age group in modern society that is a homeowner. Bought my home when I was 27 years old. Top of that, I have no outstanding debts, up to date on all my bills. At the end of the day, I didn't come from a background of wealth, very, average household, middle class when that still existed in this country. There were times where we struggled. I don't remember any times where we were flying high. And, I have no college education. I didn't do well in school. Had no real set career path in life. Throughout most of my 20s, I struggled. I worked mostly just your average Joe 9-to-5 jobs, paid, $20 to $25 an hour. That was through the majority of my 20s, pretty much. So, there's not really anything crazy here as to why I have what I have, but there are some key differences on behavior and habits and attitudes towards things that I think kind of contribute to certain things in life, and that's kind of what we're going to get into next here. But there's reasons why I have what I have now, as opposed to many people. And listen, the world is shit right now. There's a lot of things working against a lot of people. I'm no different. Life is tough, but there's a key difference between what I've done and what I see the majority of the world, people my age, kids younger than me, coming up in their late teens, early 20s. I see these mistakes. I see these things people are making, and it drives me fucking crazy. And that's a little bit about what this video is going to be about, but I just wanted to preface a little bit about me before I get into that. Let's just get into the basis of this video, and is that modern society as a whole rewards shit behavior, and that modern society as a whole is all about consumerism. It's all about being the latest and greatest, having the latest and greatest, and there's no authenticity anymore in anything anybody does in any industry, including the car industry. It bleeds into every facet of every hobby, everything. The car industry is one of them, and it's affected in such a large way people's overindulgence. What I mean by that is we actually live in a society now where stupidity is rewarded. People's financial irresponsibility is rewarded. And a large part of it is, like I said, consumerism and this need and desire to be wanted and to have the nicest, coolest thing. It bleeds into the car culture significantly. One of the biggest key things that I find is, like, when I was coming up in the car scene, when I got my license into my mid-20s, I'd say is when I went out of it for financial reasons. It was time to grow up, type of a thing. But have you ever noticed that, at least when I was that age, people had cool cars, right? They were their own cars. They were bought in cash for $3,000 to $5,000, sometimes less, maybe sometimes a little more if mommy and daddy helped them. But everybody had cars that were, 10, 15, sometimes 20 years old. Hondas were a big thing. The old Volkswagens were a big thing. But people owned their cars. They were their cars. They owned them outright, which is how it should have been for people who are 17, 18, in their early 20s. Nobody that young with no financial literacy or comprehension at all should have had a car loan, should have been paying 28, 30% APR on a $60,000 BMW. That was the generation I grew up in. And I know I said that this directly killed the car culture, and it did. And I'm going to give an example of that. The biggest example I can give is when you go to a car show or a car meet now, you see the same thing. A bunch of cars that people cannot afford, yet they have, that the bank owns, and it's all the same cookie cutter stuff. And when you get to talking to people, you realize that half of them know nothing about cars. Half of them don't even understand what their cars can truly do and or are capable of. And it's all the same cookie cutter stuff, like I said. And most of these people are not actual car enthusiasts. They're cosplaying. You talk to them, they regurgitate the same buzzwords. They give you the same nonsense of, oh, why doesn't your car have 600, 700 wheel horsepower? This kid's car does, my car, it's all just the same shit. Like you talk to people even when they're building stuff, if they are, and some of these builds are just so wildly unrealistic to the point where that they just don't know anything about cars. You hear people all the time, oh, my street build, I drive it every day or a couple times a week. It's a 600, 700 wheel horsepower build. That's just not practical. Like anybody who has built a car that knows what they're doing and what they're talking about or has driven a car with that much power knows what I'm saying. There comes a point, like a margin, where it becomes impractical to drive a car with that much power on the street unless it's maybe once in a blue moon or it's strictly for racing. Like your average Joe, light to light driving around town car, when it has that much power, it's a hassle. It's a huge hassle to get that power down smoothly, quickly, and effectively. I hear it all the time though, and it just proves my point that people don't know what they're talking about. They're just doing it because every car has to have, 600, 700 plus wheel horsepower now to fit in. And that's a symptom, once again, of instant gratification. There aren't a lot of cars anymore that are actually built. And if they are, they're usually built in somebody else's image or what they think is cool or what's trending. It's really unfortunate. And, it goes deeper. It goes really deep. It goes into why people can't do proper diag work anymore, why people just throw parts at cars. Nobody actually has the attention spans anymore to sit down, diag a car properly and figure out what's wrong. They just break their bank account to try to actually throw parts at shit, and they don't know what they're doing. That's a big part of it too. And it's because it goes to that, back to instant gratification. There's no building of cars anymore. It's just Who has the biggest credit limit? Who's willing to sacrifice their financial freedom to build a car and show it off to people? That's kind of what it has boiled down to. And the reality is that much larger symptom is consumerism. Like I said, the need to be wanted, the need to have the coolest, nicest thing in society. You see your favorite influencer, your favorite YouTuber that has a $100,000 garage set up with a $100,000 Snap-on toolbox or this, that. He drives 4 different cars, blah, blah, blah. You know, that's 1%, maybe less than 1% of the entire sphere of people that do this stuff. You know, you're looking at the top 1%, but people feel the need to mold themselves to that and compete and show out, you know, and that's why we have what we have today. Nobody has money to put away. 99% of people, whether they accept it, whether they realize it or not, 99% of people my age will never retire, ever. They think they will, but they won't. And it's part of it. You know, for one thing I did differently, and I'll stand by it, and I will always be this way, is I've never had a car note in my life, and I never will. I think it's pointless, and there are plenty of vehicles out there that will get you from point A to point B and do the job, just like the $90,000 BMW that the kid has that the bank owns and will probably forever own, and he's going to roll negative equity into the next car and into the next car, and he's going to be in debt for the rest of his life. That's the society that we live in, and it has ruined the car culture. It ruined people's minds too. I mean, that's just not a normal way to live your life. It's just sad. It really is, and I see it constantly. This car could have been done if I was still in the same sphere mentally when I was in my early 20s and I was almost getting consumed and sucked in by that type of lifestyle, you know, and the same thing that people do today. This car could have been done 50 times over by now if I wanted to, but I don't. I have a life. I have other responsibilities. I have a mortgage. I like to travel. I have a passion for hi-fi audio equipment. I have other hobbies that take my time and money, and you need to put stuff away. You know, I would love this thing to be done, and one day it will be, but I'm not in any rush. You know, it's my forever project. It is what it is. I'm not doing it to show out, you know, try to stroke my ego or any of that. I'm doing it, and I'm showing the videos along the way that I've been doing just to help people, to try and maybe they want to do the same shit, and just document it really for me. In 10, 15, 20 years from now, I could say, holy shit, remember when it was like that, you know? That's kind of what I do. Just think about it logically for a second, right? Because I look back, like when I was in that era of my life, in my early 20s, the same age I see some of these kids in some of these cars, like how can you logically, like even remotely afford these cars? And the answer is they can't. It's just that easy. It's that simple. And like I'm going to get into real life examples of what I'm talking about being in the automotive industry in just a minute, but it's just not realistic, and what you see on a daily basis is just not real. These people are not living in reality. They're victims of a much larger issue. And like I was saying, it's the overspending culture. It's just the culture of the way things are today. And you know, don't get me wrong, there are certain kids that, or certain people that they can afford it, but I'm talking about a 1% of the populace that can truly afford it. And when I say afford it, I don't mean just buy it. Anybody can buy anything in this country or even in the world. You just have to have good credit. They'll let you sign your fucking life away on that line. I mean, but it's about affording it. Can you afford it, not buy it? So that's kind of what I'm trying to get across here. I'll give some examples. Like I said, I'll go back into what I do for a living. So I sell warranties for a living. It's a very lucrative business. It treats me very well. What I do is I sell plans on not just your normal everyday cars, but semi and fully exotic vehicles. And let's give some real life examples. So I was working with a client He just purchased a 2018, I believe it was a used Porsche Panamera Turbo 4S, or a GTS actually, beautiful car. He got it for $60-something thousand. I have to ask that because the price has to go on the contract. And he divulged to me, just for whatever reason, well, it's 65, but I took out a note on it. My payment's $1,800 a month. Okay. I immediately said, okay, that's cool. And he said, well, you got to pay to play, I said, yeah, sure. And when it comes time to pay, we do offer monthly payment plan options. And he not only took that, but he also needed to split the down payment on one card and the monthlies on another card. 3 months later, his card bounces. Another month later, delinquent payment, and we had to cancel the contract. Another example, we had a woman come to us with not only, I can't remember the exact years, but they were all 5+ year old cars, but they were luxury SUVs. One was an X5, one was a Porsche Cayenne, and one was a Mercedes GLS 450. And she purchased 3 of our best plans. She split them, payment plan, of course, and she split them all on different cards. All 3 cards bounced, and 2 months later, all 3 contracts had to be canceled for delinquent payment. So these are the things I see every day. I see it in real time. That's how I'm able to speak on it. There are people with exotic vehicles that do monthly payment plans, and we have to chase them for payment. It's just society as a whole. That's why I laugh, and I have to keep my sanity. But when I see all these young kids and all these cars, I know that they cannot afford it. Holy crap, it is pouring out there. Anyway, like I said, going back to square one, this is a symptom of a much larger problem. And I don't think it's fixable. I don't think anything about it's going to change, but I'll just sit here and rant about it. And, it is what it is. I know a lot of people agree with me. I know a lot of people are going to think I'm fucking stupid, but it is what it is. The bigger problem is, I think it would be different. It would be a little bit better if these new cars and these new things that people are buying and investing their money in, poorly, might I add, but nevertheless, investing their money in, at least if they were quality, it would be worth it. But everything that is coming out, and this goes back to the beginning where I said I'd discuss why we don't do car reviews anymore. The modern car market is absolutely horrible. I have no interest in reviewing these cars. I have no interest in driving these cars, though I used to have a job where I traveled 70 to 100+ days a year on the road, so I rented cars for almost half of the year. So I've driven a ton of new cars over the years, BMWs, Mazdas, Mercedes, everything, to your Hyundai, to your Nissan, to your basic SUV, all of it. They're all fucking garbage. No matter what brand. They're just made terribly. They're made to break. They're made to nickel and dime you. Even the new Hondas. They direct inject them now, turbo them. It's just nonsense. It really is. It's all designed to hurt your wallet, to decrease the longevity of the car. These are things people know. I'm not telling you shit that you don't already know. It's disheartening that at least if you're spending all this money, you get something worth it, but you're not. The cars back in the day that I grew up with were leagues above what they're producing today. Sure, the technology wasn't there, but I don't know why you need the tech that's in modern cars. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, that's a big part of why we just don't do, or why I just don't do car reviews anymore. I'm not interested in the newer cars. And a large part of it was too, if you remember, if you're an original subscriber, like I said, there's not too many of you, but we used to do a recommendation at the end of the video, like a simple yes or no, if we would buy this or not. And I can't recommend any of these newer cars to buy, so I don't want to review that. And then that can move us into another area, which I don't think we have time for in this video because it's going to be 30 fucking minutes long if I get into this. But the automotive industry in general, from a dealership perspective or a manufacturer's perspective, I have so many friends, at least 5+ friends personally, that are dealership techs. May God save their soul, but they tell me stuff that I just can't comprehend. I really just can't comprehend. I mean, stuff coming directly from the manufacturer's mouth that is just so absurd. And yeah, I just don't know if we have time for that in this video. Maybe I'll get into that if in another video if people kind of like the way this one went. I can go on for a long time about that and what is wrong with the modern car industry from a manufacturer standpoint alone. We don't even have to touch the dealership part yet. But yeah, like I said, to reiterate and repeat myself for the 20th fucking time, it's symptom of a much larger issue. Simplest way to put it is it's a symptom of our stupidity is what we are dealing with. And it's not going to change whether people are educated about it or not, because in a way we're forced to live this way. You have options, you know, if you don't want to be stuck in these newer cars, you feel the same way as me. Find something reliable that's a couple years old, you know, 10 years old, whatever, and just run it to the ground. That's what I did my entire life, pretty much. That's why I've never had a car payment. And like I said, I probably never will. But that's really your only option. But at a certain point, that's not going to be an option anymore. When we progress 30 to 40 years from now, it's going to be increasingly difficult because they're making it that way. They're making parts harder to find, harder to come by. They want to take away your right to repair. It's a whole thing. Like I said, I'm not going to get into that. It'll take up way too much time. But anyway, if you like this video, then like it. You know, the typical YouTube nonsense. And subscribe. You know, I will get deeper into this car. I've like I said, I have way more other shit in my personal life that takes precedent. But you know, in my spare time, I'll come in here. I extended the harness. Got a couple things to go. We're doing a full wire tuck on this thing. The new harnesses. I got a whole parts rack and beyond this wall here that I'll get into at another time. But yeah, we shaved the bay. All the emissions are out. All the nonsense is out. And, you know, I'm just taking my time with it. I'm having fun because when I'm done with this thing, the fuck am I going to do? I'm going to have to go buy another car and do it all over again. But, all right, guys, that's it for this one. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed. Have a good one.